I'm going to play for you guys. You've probably have seen, and those that haven't seen, and I debated even showing this on my channel. Good evening to everyone. This is Gavin Richard with Gavin Richard Presents on my channel, GBoo2786. Excuse me. This video has been playing through my mind for the last 24 hours. I hate even going back over it, but some people haven't seen it, but of course it's gone over the world. Now, those that have not seen it, this is graphic. There's blood, there's life, and there's death. And I can only imagine what this man, Ahmad Arbery, was thinking when he was confronted by not just two, but three white supremacists. I'm just going to say that at this point, who basically followed him, or I could say suspected white supremacists for legal purposes, followed him thinking that he was some suspect in a burglary, which I don't even know how they had any idea he was a suspect in anything. I don't believe he was doing anything wrong at all but jogging. But you will see in the video and judge for yourself what happened. Now, it's very graphic. And I was very frustrated when I saw this this video that was on Raw Story yesterday. It was published by Sean King, now Esley Merritt, who's the attorney for this family, the Arbery family. He posted it on his Twitter handle, and you'll see shortly. If you guys don't want to see it, please turn away. Okay, this is a 28-second clip, but on the other unedited version that I have seen that was provided by Sean King and posted on his Twitter, of course there's a fatal ending to it where Ahmad is an extra extra 5 seconds. I don't know if you all want to see this one, the ending of it, but long story short, there were 3 shots fired. I won't share it, but you all get the picture. There were 3 shots fired, and Brother Arbery, on the fatal third shot, it went into, obviously hit Mr. Arbery in his chest and killed him. The second shot, it looked like it blasted his side. And I'm only sharing this because I'm trying to raise attention, and all of you all probably who have not seen this, to understand what was going on in this country. We are at war. You know, it's one thing when we deal with police officers beating us over our heads. It's one thing when we deal with the micro aggressions that we see from different assholes each day that will say something stupid. That's one thing to deal with, the stupid coworker that may say something racial at your job. Try dealing with this on a daily basis. White people, I want you to understand. Try dealing with this stuff day after day after day after day after day after day after day until you can't deal with it anymore. But you get used to it. You don't like it? It's like eating a sandwich made of shit. This young man 25 years old. 25 years old. I'm glad they call it a modern day lynching, because that's what it was. This, what I was looking at, what you guys see from this video, just from that 28 seconds, you know, I'm debating whether to show you the remaining when he's wrestling for the gun. This has over 6 million views right now. And, excuse me. This was after the third shot. Okay. You guys get the idea of what happened. I'm not going to play it anymore. I'm sorry. But 3 shots fired. And took this guy's life. Now, my friend in Atlanta, Brian Ponder. This is Brother Brian. He was actually out there protesting at Glenn County Magistrate Court this morning. They went up to the they were at the Capitol. They protested, and it was a justice walk and run. There was over 20 brothers and sisters. The gentleman you see here, he is the interim chief of police in Glenn County. His name is Jay Wiggins, Captain Jay Wiggins. You can email and call at that number, demanding and email him at this email address that you see here. jwiggins at glenncounty-ga.gov. And you email him and you ask him why no charges have been brought against these 3 motherfuckers. Greg McMichael, Travis McMichael, and Brian Williams. Brian Williams is the individual that was recording the shooting, or the lynching, I should say. Last week, you know, I did a video on this. I was highlighting what was going on. Most people hadn't even heard of this case, and Brian was the one that brought it to my attention. I had no idea this had even happened, and this was over 3 months ago, in February. And no arrest has been made. And of course, when we deal with these shootings, and this is another thing, white folks, dealing with the character assassination. It's one thing when you kill our children. It's a whole nother thing when you go out of your way to justify it. Oh, he failed school. Oh, his parents were divorced like he did Tamir Rice. Trayvon Martin, oh, he smoked a little weed. Your kids never smoke weed? Or drink beer? What about that hazing that they had at LSU a couple years ago? That stuff goes on there. Your kids aren't perfect. And that's the thing, they're kids. This is a 25-year-old man minding his business. And look, I want you to look at this too. I know it's hard, but just think of this for a second. You see Brother Jamal, you're going to see him in a few minutes. You see him right there. He's jogging. Now look. Now look. The car or the truck is ahead of him, blocking his exit. They're impeding traffic. This guy who's with the lynch posse, He's right behind him. He's also impeding traffic. Okay? Look, he stops. And if you look closely, it looks like Ahmad was trying to dodge. Hold on, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Ahmad was trying to dodge them, go around so he could leave. And you got one person here. This is Greg McMichael. You can see him in the bed of the pickup truck. He's carrying a firearm. Now, he doesn't have a shotgun, but he has a concealed pistol. Obviously a former Georgia police officer working with the district attorney as an investigative officer. I'm sure he stays strapped all the time. And his son is carrying a shotgun. Now, originally, according to what Esley Merritt says, and this was from Esley Merritt's Twitter handle, Esley Merritt, a lot of people don't like him personally, in the community have said, well, I won't say a lot of people don't like him, but a lot of people have negative things to say about him, especially with the Botham Jean situation. I know Tariq Nasheed has been critical of him recently, and a few others. But I'm glad that he came out and he had to, that an arrest should be made. And as an attorney, I respect him because I know the jobs that attorneys have to do. An attorney, a lot of people say, why can't somebody like Ben Crump, why do they always lose these cases? Well, those guys are not the ones that are in criminal court. These are civil rights attorneys. So their job is basically to ensure the rights of their client, the family, the victim. And when a lawsuit is filed, of course, they try and get civil litigation and a settlement. Either a settlement will come through or a jury verdict. Now, what we need, of course, we always say we want policy changes, but, we've changed policies so many times. We have laws on the books. The problem isn't the policy. The problem is that they're not enforced. That's the issue. So, you guys can call Jay Wiggins in the morning and tell him how you feel about this. And, of course, there's enough here that an arrest should have been made. Those are the assholes there that murdered Ahmad Arbery. Well, legally, guys, I have to say, I can't say anything as to their guilt. Well, let me be clear. Despite the evidence that we've seen, it's not a laughing matter, excuse me, but I'm just correcting myself. Of course, they have not been brought to justice yet, and as a general rule, all suspects are innocent until proven guilty. But we know from the fact that this prosecutor, that they've had 3 prosecutors now that have recused themselves from this case. I want to give you this letter. Brian Pope tagged me in this earlier this evening. I didn't, of course, I knew about it, but several things came to mind. A lot of stuff you don't know. The original Office of the District Attorney, George Barnhill, Waycross Judicial District. This was a letter that he wrote back on February 23rd, 2020. Now, this is right at the time the shooting happened. I want you to read this and look. My office received the Arbery autopsy report yesterday and have reviewed it yesterday and this morning. We were waiting on this important evidentiary article before finalizing our opinions. However, since we were initially requested to handle the case, the victim's mother has clearly expressed she wants myself and my office off the case. She sees a conflict in that my son works in the Brunswick District Attorney's office where Greg McMichael retired some time ago. She believes there are kinships between the parties. There are not, and has made other unfounded allegations of bias or biases. As such, I believe it is better for my office to step out, and I am going to recuse myself and the assistants working for me from handling the case. I am contacting the Georgia Attorney General office and seeking their assistance in finding another district attorney in the state to handle the further evaluation for prosecution in this case. That is to determine whether there is sufficient evidence on which to make a grand jury presentation or not. The fuck you need a grand jury presentation? You're the district attorney. The district attorney can make an arrest or issue or draw up an arrest warrant if they wanted to. The police department can make an arrest based off the evidence that they had alone. Given the governor's current shelter-in-place order and Justice Melton's judicial emergency order, I cannot venture a guess as to when they will move on this request, and once another is found, when that district attorney will have the staff available to review this case file, I hope for all involved it will move along as quickly as possible. After talking by my telephone with you yesterday, I appreciate there is immediate pressure on your department as to the issue of arrest. Since I have already given you an initial opinion the day after the shooting, I feel I can still comment on this limited issue. I am currently the elected district attorney for the Waycross Circuit. I have worked as a criminal prosecutor for some 36 years, as an assistant district attorney in Waycross and Brunswick, as chief assistant in Waycross for 20 years, and served as the district attorney the last 5 years. I have been actively involved in over 100 murder cases and assisted other prosecutors with at least 100 more. I have no idea how many aggravated assault cases involving gunshots and wounds of all types. Plus, I have attended countless schools, classes, and seminars on criminal prosecutions and criminal acts and evidence. We don't need you blowing your own horn. Myself and one of my senior trial attorneys have reviewed the evidence extensively and concur on all points. Second, as to the case at hand, it is my professional belief that the autopsy confirms what we already viewed as shown in the videotape. With the photographs and from the witness statements taken immediately at the scene, the autopsy supports the initial opinion we gave you on February 24, 2020 at the briefing room in Glynn County Police Department after reviewing the evidence you had at that time. We do not see grounds for an arrest of any of the three parties. Let's stop for a minute. When did prosecutors become criminal defense attorneys? Haven't you noticed with all of these when these police shootings happen, and this isn't even a police shooting, but whenever these shootings involve young black men getting killed by these fucking rednecks, excuse my language, I notice all the time the person who is sworn as the elected district attorney, the prosecuting attorney for that county or that parish, as we say in Louisiana, it's always either they pass the ball off to someone else or they always act like they're a public defender. You either be a defense attorney or you be a prosecutor. You represent the people or you represent a citizen. You either do your job or you don't practice law. Period. What are you here for? What is your job? Then you look at this other part where they say the autopsy supports the initial opinions we gave you on February 24, 2020 at the briefing room in the Glynn County Police Department after reviewing the evidence you had at that time. We do not see any grounds for an arrest of any of the three parties. Can you believe this? Well, I can't believe it. This is America. This is something a jury, this is another thing I want to point out. A jury or a judge, a trier of fact, that's what we call them, should determine as to guilt or innocence. They're acquitting these men before they even get, not even, well, they haven't been arrested. Third, it appears Travis McMichael, Greg McMichael, and Brian Williams were following in hot pursuit a burglary suspect with solid first-hand probable cause in their neighborhood and telling him to stop. It appears their interest was to stop and hold this criminal suspect until law enforcement arrived. Under Georgia law, this is perfectly legal, and if you read, he's talking about the controversial citizens arrest statute. There's only one problem I have with this statement from the prosecutor is that, number one, they did not have probable cause to stop Mr. Arbery. Mr. Arbery was jogging. He was not. There was no evidence that he had actually stolen anything, that he had actually held a gun on anybody, nothing at all. They only brought this up afterwards because based off of a so-called video that we don't even know, number one, exists as of yet, from a previous burglary, from a previous so-called burglary. That was the reason why they followed him off of a video. They have to, by law, from what I'm reading this, if the offense is committed, look at this carefully, a private person may, and that's the key word, may, they don't have to, may arrest an offender if the offense is committed is in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. That means only if they actually saw with their own eyes an actual break-in, an actual burglary. If you saw, for instance, a man being shot in the streets and you saw them holding the gun, yes, a Georgia citizen could make an arrest at that point. This was not the case. It was brought to my attention too, also from listening to. I listened earlier on Lee Merritt's interview on the Breakfast Club. Apparently, Mr. Arbery lived in a few blocks from this neighborhood. He said the neighborhood that Travis McMichael and Greg McMichael are from is very segregated. No surprise there. He also stated, if you also look at the video footage that you saw. And I want to point this out, and I won't play the video again, for obvious reasons. But Mr. Arbery is wearing white T-shirt and shorts. Now, we all know, especially just using our common sense, who goes to rob or burglarize a house with shorts on and a white T-shirt in the middle of the day. And the house is supposedly under construction. So, if it's not occupied, how can you say burglary? I move on. It appears Travis McMichael and Greg McMichael had firearms being carried in an open fashion. The investigation shows neither of them to be convicted felons or under felony supervision. They were in a motor vehicle owned by Travis McMichael. Under Georgia law, this is a legal open carry. Any person who is not prohibited by law from possessing a handgun may have or carry on his or her person a weapon or long gun on his property or inside his or her home, motor vehicle, or place of business without a valid weapons carrying license. Basically, this is an open carry statute. I'll go on. Fifth, the video made by William Bryan clearly shows the shooting in real time. From said video, it appears Ahmad Arbery was running along the right side of the McMichael truck. then abruptly turns 90 degrees to the left and attacks Travis McMichael, who is standing at the front left corner of the truck. A brief skirmish ensues in which it appears Arbery strikes McMichael and appears to grab the shotgun and pull it from McMichael. The first shot is through Arbery's right hand palm, which is consistent with grabbing and pulling the shotgun at the barrel tip. The second and third wounds were consistent with the struggle for the shotgun as depicted in the video. The angle of the second shot with the rear of the butt stock being pushed away and down from the fight are also consistent with the upper angle of blood plume shown in the video, and that McMichael was attempting to push the gun away from Arbery while Arbery was pulling it towards himself. Okay. All right, I'm done looking at this. Okay. George Barnhill. He needs to be recalled, and if any ethical violations, I would say he needs to be disbarred. Because it seems here he's trying to influence the outcome of this case already with this letter. He makes it clear. He's trying to obviously say that Arbery is the aggressor, when in actuality he does not address the fact that these men cut this man off. These are not police officers. How can you going on by what they say and told you, well, we thought he was a burglary suspect? How do you know that? And yes, he fought for the rifle. A shotgun, because that was the only thing he had at that time. If you had complete strangers come up on you with guns and you couldn't go anywhere, yeah, he was fighting for his life. He was unarmed. Brian writes, why do prosecutors suddenly become defense attorneys when the victims are highly melanated and the suspects are not? George Barnhill took the liberty to influence the investigation prior to recusing himself due to conflict. This appears to be unethical conduct at minimum by Barnhill. Yes, it is unethical. I'm going to post the police report again for you all, that you can go read this. This is the video again. I don't want to watch that. I'm sorry. There's a website, Esley Merritt said, that you can go to. Let's see. It's got to be on here. I think he's going to...
From South Georgia, so football is king there. He's very big in the football community. In fact, we first learned about it by NFL athletes who knew Ahmad and who had a relationship with him from his high school football days.
Everyone else also...
And to break
I want you to flood all of your letters and all of your calls to the governor's office. You can call them right here. This is the phone number, 404-656-1776. You give them hell. You can also fax, let's see, Tom Durden, who is the ADA that's handling this case right now. He came up with some bullshit excuse about why the case has not gone before a grand jury. It didn't have to go before a grand jury. He can, of course, issue an arrest, just like they arrest our people now, even with this coronavirus. Hell, they arrested a white woman in the park for violating a governor's order. Of course, they don't do it for all of them, especially when they're marching with guns. Y'all saw what happened in Michigan. This is Tom Durden's statement. He states, and this is BS as well, he can file charges if he wants to. But basically, these guys are playing Pontius Pilate. This is the telephone number, 912-876-4151. Fax number, 912-876-4305. You can read the letter here. I'll read it to you all. This is a press release. This is May 5th, 2020. On or about April 13th, 2020, I received a phone call from the Attorney General's office advising me of a death investigation in Glynn County. I was advised that the investigation involved the death of Ahmad Arbery, and that because of either prior involvement and or familial relationships, the District Attorney's Office for the Brunswick Judicial Circuit and Waycross Judicial Circuit had recused themselves from the case. Having neither previous knowledge of the incident nor any relationship with any investigators or witnesses, I accepted the appointment to review the case and take the action that I thought was appropriate. I was formally appointed District Attorney Pro Tempre by order of the Attorney General on April 13th, 2020, and began my investigation. After careful review of the evidence presented and after exchanging information with the Glynn County Police Department, the FBI, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Georgia, and the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, I am of the opinion that the case should be presented to the grand jury of Glynn County for consideration of criminal charges against those involved in the death of Mr. Arbery. While I am somewhat constrained from making out-of-court statements and public comments under the Georgia Rules of Professional Conduct, Rules 3.6 and 3.8, I can state at the present time, courts in Georgia and federal courts are prohibited from impaneling grand or trial juries. In Georgia, this prohibition is by order of the Georgia Supreme Court, effective through June 12, 2020 at 11:59 p.m. This stay may be extended by order of the Chief Justice due to health concerns associated with COVID-19 pandemic. I have no control over the suspensions due to the pandemic. Yes, you do. However, I do intend to present the case to the next available grand jury in Glynn County. So basically what he's saying is that I'm not going to do anything, because it's a cop-out to take it to a grand jury. A grand jury, of course, can say no charges and no true bill of indictment. That would exonerate him from any obligation to prosecute this case. The other thing you can possibly look at, of course, is civil rights violations, because I know that this man is a former, McMichael is a former police investigator. I don't know if he was acting obviously on behalf of the police department. Well, I shouldn't say obviously, excuse me, but you called 911, you're a former police officer, you're trying to hold the suspect until the police arrive there, according to what the District Attorney Barnhill's letter, which was full of BS, said. And again, you could have just waited for the police and told the police officers what direction he was going and let them handle it. I'd have been more okay with that than just three rednecks just jumping in a truck looking to kill somebody. It's unbelievable. And I use that term very loosely because it is believable in America when you're a black man and you got to go through this. And I also got to state for the record, guys, since I am talking legal stuff, just to be clear, that I am, of course, not licensed to practice in Georgia. Anything I say is just my legal opinion, and it doesn't constitute legal advice or even establishes a legal relationship with any viewer. I have to say that just so they won't mess with me. So, but no, man. This prosecutor, if he wanted to, he could press charges right now. The the police department, if they wanted to make an arrest, they can do that right now. You know, they have, they're opening up everything. Georgia has opened up. Keep that in mind. The state of Georgia has opened up, the first state that actually opened up completely just last week. And truth be told, they're 2 months too late, 3 months too late now, because they could have done this back in February when this happened. And the fact that they kept it under wraps, that they had this video, if you go to WSBTV.com, they actually have investigative reporter Mike Wing, who spoke to the man who may become the prosecutor in this case, which I don't think it is, but you guys can listen to it. It's pretty, you know, he describes a lot. I'll post a link to that. But it describes who released the video and how they got involved. So I'll leave that in the description as well, guys. But this is sickening. Oh, Jesus. Now I'm looking at this too. We got another, looks like another shooting in Indianapolis. And this time, the black man that was killed was an unarmed U.S. Air Force veteran. My Lord. He was killed by Indianapolis police. That's the audio. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just started looking at this. I was glanced over at my phone and I saw Nicole. Shout out to her. She posted this. We're gonna have to do. I hate doing these stories, man. But I'll do another story on this one and really look into it to see what they're talking about. But that's all I have for tonight, guys. Just I'll post the links, the numbers where you can contact the district attorney's office, where you can contact. Definitely, this is Tom Durden's numbers here. You can also look at, Brian has some links. I'm going to post all of these links to the videos from the New York Times to the police report. Again, you know, we want justice for Mr. Arbery. We want of course, the system needs to do its course, and that first step is to get an arrest. And that's what needs to happen. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. You guys be safe and be blessed. And stay strapped. I'm out.